Hi, so we're going to make show you how to make a slingshot that looks like this. In particular, the arrangement that lets you have this, what I'll call a cuff, that keeps the tube in place in the slot and keeps it from wearing, and is a real convenient way to make interchangeable bands. So we'll do this with 1745, which is this tubes from Danka, and we start by trying to make the knot that's a critical part of this. This tube encloses a knot in this 1745 tube, and that knot is near the outside of the slingshot, so it keeps you can pull on this as much as you want, and it's never going to pull through that slot. That's how the attachment method is. Okay, so getting going here, we're going to first make a knot in 1745, and depending on how fat this tube is, you're going to make either a bigger knot or a smaller knot. This tube actually is 1745 is fairly thin. So we make a knot that's like half of a square knot, only with going through that twice instead of once. So let me show you that again. So we have a knot. One times through would be that. A second times through would be that. And then we start tightening it. It's kind of hard to control the position of the knot. We'll do our fine-tuning of the rubber length after we tie the knot. Before we go much further than this, we want to lubricate the knot by using some water. And then just start stretching. And as you're stretching, try to pull the knot toward the end of the rubber so you don't waste too much of it. And something like this. This is maybe a tad too loose of a knot, so let's tighten it just a little bit more. That's probably about right. Okay, so the next thing is to measure the length we want. Let's say we want an active shooting length of 7 inches. So that 7 inches should go from the edge of the knot down to the 7-inch point, which is this mark right here. So I'll do that, and I'll make it easier by going all the way around. Okay, and once we have that done, we can cut the band off, maybe an inch or so longer than where we did that measurement. And before we attach it to the pouch, we need to add these cuffs. One on each side. I'm just going to show you one side, the second side will be the same. It turns out that 1745 is small enough to fit through these cuffs without any trouble. The inside diameter of these cuffs, the blue ones, are 5.0 millimeters, and you can see I already slid it over there. You can kind of barely sense that there's a knot in there, kind of like a snake swallowed a rat. So that part's done. Now we want to attach that to the fork, to the pouch. And so I've got let me show you how this goes. So we have a pouch, and I have a loop that's tied, doesn't stretch at all. And I'll put that through there and put it back over the top of the C-clamp. And then we're going to attach this through the hole in the pouch, but in order to do that we need to have a constrictor knot. I'll let you look up a constrictor knot, but you might be able to follow the way I do it. So you make a cross like that, then take this and go across the middle of it, And then you twist this O-shaped part so the top part goes over and makes it look more like an 8 instead of an O. And then you put those two together, being sure to stick your finger through there to maintain that hole. And then you can put this onto the pouch. And there's a question of where I'm going to line up this little blue mark. Turns out I want to line it up before I stretch it so that it's halfway between the edge of the hole of the pouch and the outside edge of the pouch. By doing that, I can then stretch it so that the mark is even with the outside edge of the part of the pouch. And when it's in that configuration, that means there's about a factor of 2 stretch in the band. And I'm kind of picky about the amount of stretch in the band because the more you stretch it, the faster it wears out. On the other hand, if you make it too loose, it might come apart. So, so there you see my algorithm for attaching the pouch with about a factor of 2 of stretch in the rubber. I pulled this constrictor knot tight. You don't want to make it too tight. That'll also make it break a little bit early. So that's what we have. So far we've attached one of these sides to the pouch. So that's what it looks like. And later on we can trim off the extra there and extra there. So if we continued with this, with the second half of the pouch, we'd have something that would look like this when we finally attach the assembly to the frame. I can show you how that goes. So you can kind of see the little bulge there hiding the knot, and that's going to go inside this slot like that, and so we're done. So that's pretty easy to do. There is a complication if the rubber gets to be a little bit thicker. If it's a little bit thicker, it won't fit through the cuff easily, and you've got to do something extra. So let me show you what that's about. So here I have some 3060 tubing. This is fat enough that we'll only want to tie a knot one time through. Probably missed that. Only one time through, like that. And I'll get it wet again to make it lubricated. And I'll stretch it out. That's probably good enough. And I'm just going to make believe I'm making a real one here, but I'm not. I'll just cut off short. And the main point here is that after we've marked it, we want to put this cuff on, but it doesn't fit, right? So what we can do is tie a constrictor knot onto the end of this. You want to get it pretty close to the end without it falling off. And when you are pretty close to the end, then you want to tighten it pretty good. And there, so it's gotten pretty tight. Now we can, it's longer than we need. Get the ends even. Stick it through the cuff, both of these loose ends. Sometimes water makes it easier. go. And we can pull it down. Usually it's pretty easy to do that. If you wanted to get fancier, you can use this portable vise from a drill press. Stick the string in there and stretch a little bit. That makes it easier to pull it down. And the knots on this end here, so you can pull it until the knot is partly covered. And then you could, at this point, either just cut it off, or sometimes you can just even pull it off. And this one's resisting, so I'll cut it off. Okay, so that's the complication that comes when you have tubes that are about 5 millimeter outside diameter or bigger. They won't fit through this cuff anymore, and you have to do some stretching and pulling with string in order to pull it through. Okay, so when we're done, we've got this completed slingshot, and you'll notice that this is kind of a little bit unusual in that it's got the slots for the rubber going sideways. The slots are parallel to the tips of the slingshot, and this is a recent advance that I came upon. I'm not sure I'm the only one, but and the result is that it's really better for aiming as opposed to, it's better for sighting as opposed to just, for instance, instinctive aiming. If you're sighting, you've got a continuous line to look at down this tube, through the slingshot and onto the target. If you had a slingshot like this with the slots perpendicular to that, as you sight down the band, your view is interrupted by this section of the slingshot, and you won't have as clear an indication of where to aim as you would when this slot goes the other direction. Okay, so that's it for now, and I'll add some info about which types of tubes get 1 or 2 knots, and anything else I think about. Okay, thanks.